Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into a story that's about 2,700 years old. It's about a ruler's ruthless decision and a clever official's brilliant solution. And believe it or not, it holds a timeless guide to leadership that is just as relevant today. So, when a crisis hits, what do you do? Do you go with cold, hard logic, or a more human touch? It's the classic leadership dilemma, right? Well, a story from nearly 3,000 years ago actually gives us two powerful and very, very different answers. All right, our story kicks off way back in 722 BCE. We meet a ruler named Duke Zhuang of Zheng. And this guy is facing two major crises at the exact same time: a political rebellion started by his own brother, and a deep personal regret that comes right after. Now, what makes this whole account so fascinating is that it's not really just one story. It's two, playing out side by side. And as you'll see, each crisis demanded a completely different way of thinking to solve it, which gives us two really distinct models for how to lead. So, on one side, you have what we're going to call the Zhuang mindset, named after the Duke himself. This is all about being decisive, unsentimental, and totally resolute. But on the other side, there's the Ying mindset, named for a clever official. This one is empathetic, creative, and diplomatic. Let's see how both of these play out in the real world. First up, the political crisis. The Duke's brother, and get this, he's backed by their own mother, tries to overthrow him and seize the throne. The Duke's response is, well, it's a masterclass in brutal, calculated efficiency. He doesn't even hesitate. He just crushes the rebellion, exiles his brother, and then, in this moment of pure fury, he turns on his mother. He puts her in isolation and makes this awful, solemn vow to never see her again until they meet in the afterlife. But what's really wild is the reaction from a court historian at the time. You'd think he'd condemn the Duke for being so cruel to his family, right? Nope. The historian actually praises him, saying this harshness is a sign of the decisive leadership the state needs to survive. And this, right here, this is a perfect illustration of what we might call the politician's mindset, or the calculus of power. It's this idea that to protect the whole organization, the state, the company, whatever, a leader sometimes has to completely separate their personal feelings from their public duty. So the takeaway for us today is pretty clear. In any leadership role, there are going to be moments that demand objective, sometimes even cold decisions. Managing your emotions, keeping your personal stuff out of your professional duties, that's not just some good advice. It's an absolutely critical skill for keeping things stable and in order. Okay, but that cold logic, it ended up creating a whole new problem. After the Duke won the political battle, he was slammed with his second crisis, this overwhelming personal regret over that vow he'd made against his own mother. I mean, he was completely stuck. He missed his mother terribly. But as a ruler, he couldn't just go back on a sacred public oath. It would make him look weak. So he had won the political war. But now he was basically a prisoner of his own words. And the solution came from the most unexpected person you can imagine. Not some powerful general or a wise old advisor, but a minor local official named Ying Kaoshu. And this guy understood that this problem couldn't be solved with force. It needed emotional intelligence. Ying Kaoshu's whole approach was just a masterclass in high EQ communication. During a meal with the Duke, he very deliberately sets aside some of his meat to take home to his own mother. This simple, relatable act hits the Duke right where it hurts, and it prompts him to confess his own regret. It was only then, after creating that emotional opening, that the official offered his brilliant face-saving solution. And here is the absolute genius of his plan. Remember, the Duke's vow was that he wouldn't see his mother until the Yellow Springs, which means the underworld. So the official says, why don't you dig a tunnel deep into the earth until you hit groundwater, a symbolic underworld, and meet her there? It let the Duke honor the literal words of his oath while still getting the emotional reconciliation he desperately needed. So clever. So what do we have here? We've got two huge crises solved with two totally different mindsets, one of cold, hard calculus and the other of warm, creative empathy. What can this ancient blueprint possibly teach us about being a leader today? Well, the history gives us some really clear modern guidance. When it comes to leadership, sometimes, like the Duke, we have to make those impartial, objective calls. But when it comes to resolving conflict, we need the official's wisdom. We need to find creative, face-saving solutions that respect everyone's dignity. And that, right there, is the ultimate lesson. This isn't about the Duke's mindset being right and the officials being wrong, or vice versa. True wisdom is about having both of these approaches in your toolkit, and, crucially, knowing which situation calls for which tool. So it really leaves us with a final question to think about. The next time you face a major challenge, are you going to need the Duke's cold resolve to protect the system, or will you need the official's empathetic wisdom to heal a relationship? Because knowing the difference, as this ancient story shows us, is everything.